The papacy of Pius XII coincided with one of the darkest periods in human history, World War II. As the world was engulfed in conflict, the role of the Vatican and its leader became a focal point of intense scrutiny and debate. The decisions made or not made by Pope Pius XII during this tumultuous time have been the subject of countless discussions, books and documentaries. His tenure as the head of the Catholic Church was marked by a series of complex and often controversial choices that continue to resonate through history. As the horrors of the Holocaust unfolded, many looked to the Vatican for guidance and condemnation. The world was desperate for moral leadership, and the Vatican, with its significant influence, was seen as a beacon of hope. People from all walks of life, including political leaders, religious figures, and ordinary citizens, awaited a strong and unequivocal stance from the Pope. The silence from the Vatican, however, was deafening to many who were suffering and in dire need of support. However, Pope Pius XII maintained a public stance of neutrality, choosing his words carefully and avoiding direct confrontation with the Nazi regime. This approach was seen by some as a strategic move to protect the Church and its followers from potential Nazi retaliation. Others, however, viewed it as a moral failing, a missed opportunity to stand firmly against evil. The Pope's speeches and public statements were often scrutinized for what they said, and more importantly, for what they did not say. This silence, perceived by some as tacit consent to the atrocities, cast a long shadow over his legacy. The Vatican's lack of a strong public condemnation of the Nazi regime led to widespread speculation and criticism. Many wondered if the Church's silence was a calculated political move or a grave moral oversight. The impact of this perceived inaction was felt deeply by the victims of the Holocaust and their families, who looked to the Vatican for solace and support. Critics accused him of indifference to the plight of European Jews, fueling decades of controversy. The accusations were not just limited to his wartime actions, but extended to his overall approach to the Nazi threat. Many historians and scholars have debated whether Pope Pius XII could have done more to save lives, and whether his silence was a form of complicity. The controversy surrounding his papacy has led to a divided legacy, with strong opinions on both sides. The debate surrounding Pius XII's wartime actions remained polarized for decades. On one hand, there are those who argue that the Pope did what he could under extremely difficult circumstances. They point to the complex political landscape of the time and the potential repercussions of any direct confrontation with the Nazis. On the other hand, there are those who believe that a stronger, more vocal opposition from the Vatican could have made a significant difference in the lives of countless individuals. Supporters pointed to his pre-war condemnation of anti-Semitism and the numerous accounts of individuals saved by the Church. They highlight the efforts made by the Vatican to provide aid and shelter to those persecuted by the Nazi regime. Stories of Jewish families being hidden in monasteries and convents and the issuance of false documents to help them escape are often cited as evidence of the Pope's behind-the-scenes efforts to combat the atrocities. These actions, though not always publicized, were seen by supporters as a testament to the Pope's commitment to saving lives. Detractors, however, argued that a more forceful denouncement of Nazi crimes could have saved countless lives. They believed that the Pope's position as a moral and spiritual leader required him to take a more definitive stand against the atrocities being committed. The argument is that his silence and neutrality were not enough in the face of such overwhelming evil. The potential impact of a strong vocal condemnation from the Vatican is a point of contention that continues to fuel the debate. The question of whether Pius XII did enough to combat Nazi evil remained a subject of intense historical and moral scrutiny. As historians continue to uncover new documents and testimonies, the legacy of Pope Pius XII is constantly being re-evaluated. The debate is not just about the past, but also about the lessons that can be learned for the future. The actions and inactions of leaders during times of crisis are a reminder of the profound impact that moral courage and leadership can have on the course of history. In the late 20th century, a pivotal development began to reshape the narrative surrounding Pius XII. The Vatican, after decades of secrecy, granted historians access to previously classified archives from his papacy. This unprecedented move opened a window into a hidden chapter of World War II, the Vatican's covert resistance against Nazi Germany. The documents revealed a network of clandestine operations orchestrated from within the Vatican walls. Pope Pius XII, far from being a passive observer, actively worked behind the scenes to combat Nazi tyranny. His efforts, shrouded in secrecy for fear of Nazi reprisals, involved a complex web of espionage, humanitarian aid, and diplomatic maneuvering. The newly available archives offered tangible evidence of a side of Pius XII rarely glimpsed by the public eye. Central to the Vatican's clandestine operations during World War II was the Vatican Information Service, or VIS. This secretive organization was established to navigate the treacherous waters of wartime Europe, where information was both a weapon and a shield. The VIS operated under the direct authority of the Pope, making it a unique entity in the realm of intelligence and espionage. This covert network, operating under the Pope's direct authority, was tasked with gathering and disseminating critical information. The VIS was not just a passive receiver of information. It actively sought out intelligence that could aid the Vatican in its mission to protect human dignity and life during the war. The VIS served as a vital link between the Vatican and the outside world. In an era where communication lines were often severed or monitored, the VIS managed to maintain a flow of information that was both reliable and discreet. This was no small feat, considering the pervasive surveillance and control exerted by the Axis powers. Through a web of informants and couriers, the VIS gathered and disseminated intelligence, bypassing the traditional channels controlled by Axis powers. These couriers, often risking their lives, ensured that vital information reached its intended recipients. The network was a lifeline for many, providing hope and guidance in a time of darkness. The VIS played a crucial role in relaying information about Nazi atrocities to Allied governments. This was not just about gathering data, it was about bearing witness to the horrors of war and ensuring that the world knew the truth. The reports compiled by the VIS were detailed and harrowing, painting a stark picture of the brutality inflicted by the Nazi regime. It provided detailed reports on the persecution of Jews, documenting the systematic efforts to eradicate an entire people. These reports were among the first to alert the world to the scale of the Holocaust, making the VIS an essential conduit for this critical information. The VIS also documented the deportation of prisoners to concentration camps, providing evidence of the inhumane conditions and the sheer scale of the operations. These reports were crucial in mobilizing international support and condemnation against the Nazi regime. Additionally, the VIS reported on the systematic plundering of occupied territories. This included the looting of cultural artifacts, resources, and the exploitation of local populations. The VIS's documentation of these crimes added to the growing body of evidence against the Axis powers. The VIS also served as a conduit for communication between resistance groups operating within Nazi-occupied Europe and the Allied forces. This was a critical function as it helped coordinate efforts to undermine the Axis powers from within. The information relayed by the VIS has enabled resistance fighters to carry out more effective operations, striking at the heart of the enemy's control. This clandestine information flow provided critical support to the Allied war effort and exposed the true nature of the Nazi regime to the world. The work of the VIS was a testament to the power of information and the courage of those who risked everything to ensure that the truth was known. In the end, the VIS not only contributed to the defeat of the Axis powers, but also helped lay the groundwork for a post-war world that would strive to uphold the values of justice and human dignity. One of the most remarkable aspects of the Vatican's secret war was its efforts to provide refuge for Jews facing persecution. During the dark days of World War II, when the Nazi regime was relentlessly hunting down Jews across Europe, the Vatican emerged as an unexpected sanctuary. The Catholic Church, under the leadership of Pope Pius XIV, took extraordinary measures to protect those who were being targeted simply because of their faith. Recognizing the imminent danger faced by Jews under Nazi rule, the Vatican implemented a daring plan to create false identities for those seeking sanctuary. This plan was not just a minor operation, but a large-scale, coordinated effort that involved many members of the clergy and lay people alike. The creation of false identities was a complex process that required meticulous attention to detail to ensure that the documents could withstand scrutiny by Nazi officials. The Vatican issued thousands of forged baptismal certificates and identity papers, transforming Jews into seemingly Catholic individuals. These documents were crafted with such precision that they often included details like family history and parish records, making them appear authentic. The baptismal certificates, in particular, were powerful tools because they provided a new identity that could be used to navigate the dangerous landscape of occupied Europe. These documents, though simple in nature, held the power of life and death. A single piece of paper could mean the difference between being captured by the Nazis and finding safety within the walls of a monastery or convent. The stakes were incredibly high, and the success of this operation depended on the unwavering commitment of those involved. They allowed Jews to escape detection, evade deportation and seek refuge within the network of Catholic institutions that dotted Italy and other parts of Europe. Monasteries, convents, and even the homes of clergy became safe havens. These places offered not just physical protection, but also a sense of hope and humanity in a time of widespread despair. The Catholic Church's network was extensive, and its members were often willing to risk their own lives to save others. This act of humanitarian forgery, coordinated at the highest levels of the Vatican, demonstrated the lengths to which Pius XII and his collaborators were willing to go to save innocent lives. It was a testament to the power of compassion and the moral courage of those who chose to stand against tyranny. The legacy of these efforts is a poignant reminder of the impact that brave individuals and institutions can have in the face of overwhelming evil. Rome, under the watchful eyes of the Vatican, became a haven for Jews seeking refuge from Nazi persecution. Catholic institutions throughout the city, including monasteries, convents, and even the Vatican itself, opened their doors to those fleeing for their lives. The Vatican's properties, considered neutral territory by international law, provided a safe haven for thousands of Jews. Hidden in attics, basements, and secret rooms, they evaded Nazi roundups and deportation. The Vatican's network of safe houses extended beyond its own walls. Religious orders throughout Rome sheltered Jewish families, providing them with food, shelter, and most importantly, protection from the ever-present threat of discovery. This clandestine network of compassion, operating under the auspices of the Church, saved countless lives during the darkest days of the Holocaust.